Hello and welcome back to Shelf Center. This is Bryce. Thank you so much for stopping by. Thanks for liking and subscribing. If this is something you end up enjoying, you never know, it could happen. Hey, we've got our top shelf news for this week. It's Tuesday News Day as opposed to Tuesday Reviews Day, and we've got our best in science fiction, fantasy, sometimes horror news, mostly as it relates to books, sometimes also about media, sometimes more so about media than the books. Just depends on the news day. So anyway, let's jump into the books. First things first, one of my favorite authors of all time, Janny Wurts. Her books, this is what I've been asking for ages, and she listened, and she only listened to me, clearly. I was the only voice on this. That's not true. There is already a pre-order for The Curse of the Mistwraith on Audible. So we've got audiobooks coming for The Wars of Light and Shadow. I can't believe it's taken this long, but I am not going to look a gift horse in the mouth. I'm so happy. It's so great that the publishers listened to Janny Wurts and to the fans, to all kinds of people, I'm sure. You know, and then the sales on The Curse of the Mistwraith are going to also dictate how we do with other books in the series. So all I can say is I already got my pre-order in, and I would encourage you to do the same, if only for my sake. So thank you. So the last book in the series, Destiny's Conflict, did get an audiobook. And so now we're going back to the beginning, the first book. And the last book in the series looks like also will be getting an audiobook. So that's going to be Song of the Mysteries coming out later this year. So anyway, great time to be alive, to jump in, but let's hope that we can get more audiobooks going, because that is just awesome. I love it. So, and I'm way too dependent on audiobooks, so it's my own fault these days. It's how I get most of my reading in. Then I want to do a follow-up. I mentioned in my last news video about Davis Ashura. He had a big, huge free sale because of his anniversary on publishing books, and just kind of, so he gave away 13 books from his back catalog just for a couple days. 32,000 sales. Just boggles the mind. I think it's so cool. So anyway, go indie publishing. I love it. It's great. All right, couple special editions / Kickstarter. So one of those is Drummondor by Michael J. Sullivan. I am sorry if I've mispronounced the name of that book. It probably did, but it's the Rhaenyra Chronicles #5. So very good news, but the Kickstarter looks like that should be starting here soon, and it's already in pre-launch. So anyway, get on board. I do have a plan of reading some more Michael J. Sullivan this year. I've read the full Rhaenyra Revelations. I've gotten one book into the Chronicles, and I need to read the Legends. So I've got a lot on my plate here to do, but I am definitely ready to catch up because I love me some Michael J. Sullivan. All right, then huge, if you're a Malazan fan especially, news, but Broken Binding has got, they're doing the whole Malazan series, Broken Binding special editions, with art from Felix Ortiz, directed, the art direction by Patrick Leo, a booktuber extraordinaire. This is going extremely well because the first cover artwork has been displayed here on both, X, Twitter, whatever, through email. So definitely sign up for the Broken Binding on email. I get nothing from them, so just free advertising here. But it's worth it because they're doing great things. But anyway, Gardens of the Moon, cover art, already posted. I can't wait to see where it goes from here. But man, it's looking really cool. If you didn't already know, this is Felix Ortiz artwork, and I love it. Just over and over again, Ortiz is killing it. And here's yet another one, another example. And I don't know, Malazan is just great, so I'm excited for this so much. All right, then to some controversial items. First controversial item first. Laurell K. Hamilton. This is old news now, I know. I wanted to talk about it though. But essentially, because part of this, I just had a really good conversation with Matt from Beard of Darkness over the weekend. And we talked a lot about independent publishing, traditional publishing, and kind of the theme we kept going back to. Self-published authors, independently published authors are authors, right? And I think that's a good point to make, that they're authors, right? In my top 100 fantasy books of all times, there's tons of independently self-published books mixed in with traditionally published books. To me, it's all the same. It's one and the same. I think I give a special connotation to it, or some at least do, to try to change that thought process, but and make it into a good thing, as opposed to for ages, it's kind of been considered a thing that people thumb their noses at, that people kind of frown upon or look down upon. And I think that's what kind of some of the sentiment, at least, that was taken. So from Laurell K. Hamilton. Laurell K. Hamilton is an author who's published, I think she was saying, over 40 books now, traditionally. And just was answering some fan questions. And again, you got to love an author who's willing to go out there. But it is always a dangerous ground to have opinions as an author, which I think is kind of a sad thing. I think authors should be able to have opinions. It is when they start commenting on people's reviews of their books that it starts to get dangerous. But essentially, her kind of what sparked this controversy is she did have a video where she essentially was like, hey, instead of just jumping into independent publishing, you should try traditional publishing, give that a go. And she was really doing it, as far as I could tell, from her own perspective. Like, that's what she did. She tried to publish her first, I think it was Anita Blake book, submitted over 200 times, finally got picked up, and it's done quite well for her, right? So that system that worked for her made her kind of refine what she was doing. But in kind of making commentary about self-publishing, it kind of, there was a vibe of like, you only do that if you're a failure. So I am so glad to at least hear that and watch her follow-up video to say, look, I'm sorry, I was wrong about that. I've been educated and changed my perspective on it. So I really like that, because really self-publishing, like, again, I was talking with Matt over at Bearded Darkness. Definitely go subscribe. It's this great thing we have now that it lets us into a whole new market, a whole new area where traditional publishing maybe would never have gone. My favorite example of late is lit RPG and progression fantasy, which, there's a distinction, I think. I'm not quite sure where that is, but I mean, imagine that. Like, that I don't think was going to become as big without independent publishing, and that's what's been great about that. So I love that we have this whole area that people can do well in. And it used to be that, hey, unless you did really, really well independently publishing, then maybe you're a good author that a traditional publisher might actually look at and pick up. And speaking of, I mentioned Michael J. Sullivan earlier. He's one of those that independently published first, then went traditionally published, and then what's great was like, nope, actually, it's actually better to go independent publishing, and that's what he's gone back to. And I love that. He has way more control. He gets to do everything. Anyway, I do love, like, I respect Laurell K. Hamilton, as much grief as she got, which I think was deservedly so to some degree, but that she changed, her opinion. She went on, and I just think we need more of that in this world. Like, none of us knows everything. We get into our little boxes or our echo chambers, and we think we know everything. We don't, and it's okay that we don't. We can mess it up, and again, be educated, and then again, have that humility, have that, kind of let your ego go a little bit. And again, Laurell K. Hamilton is right to have an ego. She's done quite well in publishing, but to let that ego go and accept some understanding, some advice. I think we need a lot more of that in this world, and that's maybe all I'll say about that. All right, then the other controversial news, and I thought Daniel Green did a great job of explaining this. I've kind of looked into this. First I was aware of it was through R.F. Kuang, the author herself, but there's some Hugo Awards issues. And I think, again, go to, if you haven't already, watch Daniel Green's video on this. I'll link it below because he really goes into detail. But essentially, the Hugo Awards, there's some issues, and there's the con where they're announced. It's pretty kind of loosey-goosey, it seems like, but it's very much the members get to kind of pick which country will host the award ceremony and everything, and which essentially means that that country and the ceremony itself, everything about it gets to be run by that country. And so all of the books, the nominations, everything essentially runs through them. And whereas I think still voted on, it's by the members and whatnot, it's still if you're given bad options to vote on or not the full amount of options to vote on, that's pretty fascist, to say the least. It's pretty controlling. And one of those things is R.F. Kuang's book Babel has done quite well for awards. Nominated for a Nebula and a Locus, I think, and won the Locus, I believe. Editing Bryce knows all. But then is not even nominated and was just considered, there was a list that was put up by those heading it currently, who happened to be in China, who did not list, or who listed her book but said it wasn't eligible. No explanation given. The author herself was like, I didn't take mine off. I didn't say I wasn't wanting to be considered for this. And so it's very suspicious. It's very, I think, concerning. Shows kind of some big issues with the award itself. And you just start going, all right, well then how legitimate are these awards anyway if you can just exhibit this kind of crazy control over it? So anyway, it's suspicious to say the least. I have my concerns where, at least it's not the Sad Puppies or whatever that was called 10 years ago or something. But it seems like, for the most part, with this awards issues, is that, again, too long didn't read. Charge of the award for the Hugo was given over to China. China has released a list of authors and described which ones are eligible and which aren't. Doesn't really provide why. There were delays in that happening. Usually that happens pretty quickly, and then there were delays for unexplained reasons. And then now we're here with, again, I hope deserving people, of course, but it's just, why are some eligible and why aren't others? It seems like some nefarious purposes are involved here, frankly. And again, makes me go, let's, hopefully the members can get together and kind of figure it out and figure out how this kind of stuff can get stopped. All right, then I wanted to do a quick plug for, I don't know if you've been watching this, but it's been super great. Lots of just so much community involvement. TBRCon, definitely check it out. I'll have links down below. But definitely TBRCon, if you want to look at just great panels. So essentially it's a online convention that was put together by FanFi Addict, Lord TBR himself, and it's got a ton. I mean, just for this last week, it's just been daily, multiple different live streams getting together. I mean, like Veronica Roth, Christopher Paolini, great, the booktubers, Mike's fantasy book reviews, and I could keep going, but there's just great like writing advice, writing dragons, just marketing, all kinds of different panels that are definitely highly worth your time with great people on it. So can't recommend that enough. Deserves all the praise, everything that it, and again, and hopefully, maybe even nomination for awards here come award season. Then I wanted to get into the medias. I just got a couple things I wanted to address. One of those is Swan's Song. I just read this last year by Robert McCammon, is apparently potentially getting optioned here, gonna get itself a TV series. Greg Nicotero apparently involved from Walking Dead fame and Creepshow fame. So anyway, I mean, that's some good sign there, I think. Swan Song, would love to see how this can pan out. I mean, it was nuts. It's so crazy. So it's just, anyway, God, there's gonna be a lot going for that. But I can't wait to see how this turns out. I think it's deservedly so, right? It's an 80s book, but but the people that read it consider it up there with The Stand by Stephen King. And I don't know, I think a TV series is the way to go. It's a long chonkin book, so TV series, we're in the golden realm for TV series, and I think that was the way to go. All right, then the final thing I wanted to address, I just saw this trailer recently. It's a new Adam Sandler movie called Spaceman, and all I could think in watching the trailer, and correct me if I'm wrong, if you've read Project Hail Mary as well, all I kept thinking was, is this just Project Hail Mary? They're just not calling that? Correct me if I'm wrong. Tell me your thoughts on that. All I thought was just like, wait, did they just take Project Hail Mary? Is that all it is? Know that I'm sorry if that's a spoiler for you. I don't watch it if you're worried about spoiling Project Hail Mary now that you've heard this. Those who've read it, I want to know, okay? But anyway, that's been the news to me for this week. Thank you so much for stopping by. Check out, like I already mentioned, I was on a live stream with Matt, Beard of Darkness, just recently. So check that out. I'll have a link down below. Always remember, I do put Kindle ebook deals down below. They are affiliate links. It does help out the channel, so thank you so much for that. And we'll catch you next time. Bye.